All right, so my name is Anthony Wilroth, and I own the Basement Reef at 110 North 10th Street. Leading into tonight, the biggest struggle for me has been deciding how to best spend my 3 minutes to highlight the problems with FUSUS. Problems would take more than 3 hours to explain in their entirety. In the end, I've decided to focus extensively on what an insult to our community this entire process has been. I've written about many specific concerns regarding FUSUS on public Facebook posts and authored a document called Columbia Wants to Build a Bat Cave that I know many of you have read and I distributed here tonight, so I will not be reiterating those points here now. Instead, I want to focus on the extent to which every part of this PR campaign by Jeff Jones, the rest of the CPD, and many of our downtown leaders has shown complete disregard for any respect of the idea of community policing, anyone who has voiced any disagreement, and to be honest, anyone that has dared to question them at all. To be clear, Jeff Jones' response to any scary part of such a powerful surveillance system has either been, "We won't use that part," or "We'll address that in the policy," a policy Jeff Jones has told you all many times that he cannot and will not write until you buy him FUSUS. He has also frequently responded that they simply don't have the staff to use all of FUSUS's features. That leads to two obvious questions. One, if you can't utilize it, why do you need it? And two, how will the next thing you ask for not just be more police to be able to fully utilize your fancy new AI-powered human tracking and data collecting system? Jeff Jones never wanted to give you any honest answers. Jeff Jones thought if he wined and dined half our business leaders and brought city employees out on expensive trips to see how other cities violate their citizens' privacy, that this would go through without any resistance. Jeff Jones thought that if he came with letters in hand from the local NAACP, the public schools, and business organizations, written with no input from the people they purport to represent, that he wouldn't need to listen to anyone else in the community. Need I remind you that our police department has a community policing resolution? It couldn't be clearer that in the eyes of CPD, CPS, Downtown CID Director Nikki Davis, and many other downtown leaders, that they are the only ones that count as community members. Go ahead. Vote yes on this tonight. Vote yes to fundamentally change the relationship between police and citizens. You can never put that genie back in his bottle, by the way. Go ahead and create an all-seeing class of people that inherently know more about everyone else than anyone else can ever possibly know about them. Go ahead and disregard every voice in this community that has told you this would be a huge misstep and lead to negative and unequal outcomes for many of the most marginalized people among us. If that's community policing in your eyes, go ahead and do that. If that's not what you want, though, vote no and stand with your actual community tonight, please.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Fourth Ward, Nick Foster. My man, vote no. I'm here today to demand that the City Council vote no on the draft FUSUS proposal.
Come closer to the microphone. Sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. You can make it shorter. Sorry. Thank you.
First, I believe the FUSUS is a sneaky way for the CPD to get around the Fourth Amendment. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Our friend pointed out that it's voluntary, but only for business owners. Businesses put up signs that say, "There's a video camera here." But with FUSUS, how do I know when the police might be looking at me through a business owner's video camera? There's no guarantee of that, and I have no way to consent to the police accessing me. That's a violation of privacy. Police can use the fact that business owners opt in to argue that they have all the permissions that they need. FUSUS will not prevent or stop crime. In his interview with Andrew Graybow and KOPN on Wednesday, November 16th, Chief Jeff Jones explained how FUSUS would work by proposing a scenario in which a business owner has a FUSUS-enrolled camera and someone begins assaulting someone else. The business owner would call 911, the police would arrive. That is not preventing crime, that is at best stopping crime. FUSUS places Black and POC Columbia citizens at risk of disparate policing. The VSR numbers have not improved. Black people are still 4 times more likely to be pulled over by police. If you think that it's possible for police to use FUSUS in an equitable way, you are wrong. And if you choose to execute it, you will be putting people of color and other marginalized people at material risk. Do not do this. In addition, in the current climate, in which the state jumped to take away human rights from women and people who give birth. I would like no more police surveillance on my private healthcare decisions than are absolutely necessary. And I'm shocked, Mayor Buffalo, that you would support something that would put women at risk after you ran on such a progressive platform. Accountability is not harm. The Columbia City Council is here to hold themselves accountable, the city manager accountable, and the police accountable, and they should continue to do that. Vote no.
Thank you. Next up for public comment.
I'm a local faggot, and given that 5 members of my community were just killed in Colorado Springs yesterday, while the police only stopped the man who tackled the shooter, you can imagine I'm somewhat doubtful about the police's claims to protection from violent crime. Real-time video footage, mind you, wouldn't have changed this at all. 9/11 calls were placed within a minute of the shooter entering the club at 11:55 p.m. Now, the police continue to insist that they will not use facial recognition software, but the human eye and the human brain is capable of facial recognition without any algorithmic assistance. In 2011, the city of London exploded in riots over the police's killing of an unarmed black man. Using the city's 8,000 cameras, Metro Police began combing through footage. Then Prime Minister David Cameron had this to say about the operation. Picture by picture, these criminals are being identified and arrested, and we will not let any phony concerns about human rights get in the way of publication of these pictures and arrest of these individuals. Now, for 10 years, UK Metro Police lied and informed human rights groups that there was no intention of installing facial recognition software, while Parliament passed resolutions condemning the People's Republic of China for using said facial recognition. Of course, in 2016, facial recognition software was installed in cameras across Buckingham, and by 2021, cameras with facial recognition software were widespread across the entire London metropolitan area. Facial recognition software in the first place is a result of police, through their announcements, trying to set the conversation and distract us from the fact that no matter how you slice it, this is a mass surveillance tool concentrated in the hands of one department. They didn't want us to know about it at all. They skirted the normal RFP process and kept councillors out of the loop. This is the actions of a circle of self-interested businesses and police who have conspired to essentially nullify the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution in Colombia. This can't by definition prevent crime, because the best case is that they'll have a real-time view as it's happening and respond within normal response times. The police they aren't going to follow procedures because they have repeatedly failed to demonstrate understanding of how this technology works. Is it 2 to 4 levels of FUSUS cores? You refer to the merchant constantly for questions. You've said that this couldn't access residential systems, and yet FUSUS' website says the FUSUS core is capable of accessing any IP camera system, which Google Nest is one, among many, many other brands. If the council votes for this, the citizenry will not let you forget. We will remember that this is the council who sold our right to privacy away in the name of a rundown security theater, which has proven to make no difference in preventing violent crime.
Thank you
we
for
will
your
not
comment.
forget that the police have sat rolling their eyes at their concerns and that they sought to surveil
Thank you for your
us.
comment. Come up.
My name is Amy Roberts. I'm Ward 1 resident, and I'm here to ask that council vote not to fund FUSUS. The Fourth Amendment in our Constitution states the right of the people to be secure against unreasonable searches and seizures. FUSUS would allow CPD to surveil citizens without having to ask for anyone else's permission, without probable cause and without a warrant. Surveillance without the checks and balances of asking permission or asking for a warrant not only violates that Fourth Amendment, it also leaves room for abuse to go unnoticed and unpunished. To believe every single officer and employee at CPD will always follow the rules is naive and unrealistic. For years, the NSA told us they had never collected data from private phone records. As I'm sure you all remember, Edward Snowden exposed the truth in 2013, proving in fact that they were. I lost my place. You may not remember, though, that in 2020, a federal judge ruled that the FBI and NSA had violated civil liberties with unlawful surveillance. I'm sure a lot of us trusted that our law enforcement was only keeping us safe and assumed that they were of the utmost integrity. If we did, we were wrong. This is why checks and balances are absolutely necessary. The police already have the ability to get video footage if there is a crime or suspicion of a crime. They can ask for footage from camera owners. If the owner refuses to give it to them, they can obtain a warrant. This is the best way, as they must ask permission each time they wish to view footage. It may not be as fast and easy, but are our civil liberties worth sacrificing for efficiency? For me, the answer is no. And there is no evidence that systems like FUSUS prevent crime or solve more crimes. The risk of malicious application is greater than the possibility of doing any good for our community.
Thank you.
And I'm here today after working a 13-hour workday with my extreme fear of getting up in front of people because of my concern for the FUSUS program. One of our most important rights is our right for privacy, and I take any erosion to that right very seriously because that's something that you often never get back. And I haven't seen anything in the data of the FUSUS program that would show that it would be worth any kind of trade in our right for our privacy. In fact, it just seems like there's ways that it can be abused to stalk people and police certain groups of people. I think it's just a slippery slope. It seems like there's different parts of this program that aren't going to be used right now, and it's just a slippery slope. And I feel like just from the questions that were asked and the discrepancies from one person's answer to other people's understanding of the program just within this evening doesn't give any kind of trust or confidence in this program.
You guys can move closer.
Okay, hi. My name is Willow Clearwater, and I would like to say that I hope you guys vote no on the FUSUS, and the reason that I feel that way is although safety is really important to me, and I really appreciate the different law enforcement that has kept us safe, I think this particular thing, when I heard the questions about how it would be used, it sounds kind of like it's up to their discretion on how they want to use it, whether they want to do things that they're telling us now they're not going to do. If they want to change their mind, it doesn't sound like they're going to come back and say, hey, is it okay if we do this now? It just like, now we have this system, we can do it. And to me, that, like has been said before, that's a really slippery slope into targeting certain people, and I just think that at the end of the day, that will not keep us safe. It'll keep us in a place that we don't get to feel safe anymore. So that's all I have to say, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Erica, and I'm in the 2nd Ward. I just had a few comments and questions. They don't have to be answered, but I just want them on record. Mr. Seawood was saying that he only spoke to the NAACP, and I just don't feel that that is a concise, any of the list that Pat was asking, had we spoken to a concise, because of, I just don't feel that the NAACP represents all of Columbia. So I was wondering that. And then I wanted to know, where is the data of outcomes of crime prevention? I mean, I haven't heard any of that, even in reading some of the information. The email sent that Pat mentioned, was there any against? I wanted to know. Then the areas of public input, how was that information provided to the community? Was it just email, knowing that some of these areas where there's a lot of crime, a lot of them don't use email, a lot of them don't use, the social media? Was it, sent out through the mail, through the City of Columbia, mailing? How was that information so that people could be a part of it? And then I wanted to know how close were the two meetings that I did see to the area of high crime. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Erica. Next, public comment.
Hi, my name is Alex August. I manage Leo's Old Clothes on 9th Street. Every day, 500,000 presumably innocent people are held in local jails prior to conviction. Many are there simply because they cannot afford the bail set for them. But I am not here to discuss the issue of cash bail. I am here to voice my opposition and speak on how implementing the FUSUS system in Colombia would result in an increased number of unnecessary arrests, which would subsequently lead to a higher number of individuals with bonds they cannot pay, many of whom have families who rely on them. And no child should have their life turned upside down because a concerned citizen sent a photo of their guardian to the cops for looking suspicious when they were in all likelihood minding their own business. FUSUS allows people to report what they feel is suspicious behavior in this manner, and when viewed through a critical and statistical lens that highlights the disparities among the incarcerated population and within the prison industrial complex as a whole, the possibilities are horrifying. The executive director of the district CID once wrote in a budget that people think downtown is now unclean as a direct result of opening the Wabash Warming Center. We no longer have a warming center for our unhoused residents. At 9:36 a.m. today, Nikki Davis sent an email to the business owners of the district lobbying them to support city council members voting yes on the implementation of FUSUS to, in my opinion, support an anti-homeless agenda. Not only is this a gross misuse of her power as a community leader, but it is an illegal use of taxpayer dollars which pay her salary. If Nikki Davis and others are so offended by the sight of unhoused individuals in downtown Columbia, I suggest they reconsider their support of FUSUS. The unhoused are disproportionately affected by every aspect of the justice system, and rates of arrests and incarceration are in direct correlation with rates of homelessness, even when talking about people who are not yet unhoused. More arrests lead to more incarcerations, which leads to more people on the streets, which leads to more arrests. Recidivism is a problem that implementing an Orwellian system such as this will only serve to perpetuate further. In closing, I would like to address the NAACP's claims that local members of the Black and Brown community have been asked about their stance on FUSUS. My networks are widely diverse. I have not heard a word of support from FUSUS from even one person of color. In fact, most know nothing about this because the only POC Ratliff reached out to were those who felt comfortable rubbing shoulders with local law enforcement. And the irony of Ratliff signing her emails, yours in the struggle for equity, freedom, and justice, while she pressures the demographic that is most at risk of enduring police abuse to support their own oppression, is not lost on me. Thank you. Please vote no.
Next up.
Hi, thank you. My name is Sharon Galway-Jones, and I have sent an email to all of you with some information about what I'm here to talk about. I am an attorney and an advocate who works on civil and criminal justice issues at the statewide level, and I'm a resident of 4th Ward. I am here today because I am concerned not about what the chief says he wants to do today, but about the fact that if you pass the ordinances before you, he can change the policies and expand those uses indefinitely. So I would like to propose an alternative. If you vote no, he can find other funding. If you vote yes, he's got carte blanche. However, if we pass what they are doing in so many other communities that have adopted either community safety cameras or the FUSUS system, and pass what is called a Community Control Over Police Surveillance, or CCOPS, ordinance, we would be able to put safeguards at an ordinance level over how this data is used, over when and how the police can do live surveillance, over when and how they can access residential cameras, over when and how AI recognition can be used. And those kind of bold 30,000-foot safeguards would allow us to both meet the needs of safety of our community, allow the police to get post-incident camera data, which they can get now with probable cause, more quickly, but not invade our privacy rights or allow for an overabuse of the system. Also, putting it in the ordinance means that any violation would be a violation of law and not merely a police internal policy, and therefore would be more enforceable as a standard. San Francisco has adopted a CCOPS policy. We also know that during the George Floyd protests, the police department did in fact use facial recognition software in a violation of that policy. There is an ongoing lawsuit about that violation. We would be able to have that sort of same recourse if someone did abuse the system if we passed a CCOPS type ordinance. So I would ask that we table this until we can get such an ordinance in place, pass them all together. That way we are assured that the police will use the system in the way they are describing and not abuse it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next public comment.
Karen Sickinator, Second Ward. I am also a small business owner here in Columbia, and I was notified of this on November 15th. This was the first time that I had really heard about any of this, and as a small business owner, I am somebody who uses artificial intelligence in my everyday business. This is part of what I do for a living. And one of the concerns that has been raised about this system is the fact that it does have the capability for facial recognition. Whether or not we're opting in, opting out, however that looks, the capability is there. So even if we pass this today saying we are opting out of this, what's to stop our police department from deciding to opt in at a later date? One of the big concerns with facial recognition technology is the fact that these algorithms are based upon data that is put into them. And that data that is being put into them is showing that what is coming back out is not very accurate. That's a big problem when we're talking about using this to police our population. We don't necessarily want to wrongfully put people in jail, even temporarily, who are not guilty of anything other than looking kind of similar to what this picture looks like. That's a big problem. What I would like to ask for today is an ordinance that actually bans the use of facial recognition technology by this governing body forever, because we don't have the good data in order to make sure that it's actually accurate. In addition to that, these are laws that are being proposed and being pushed through committee in Congress currently. I would like to read the text from H.R. 3907, which is to prohibit biometric surveillance by the federal government without explicit statutory authorization, and to withhold certain federal public safety grants from state and local governments that engage in biometric surveillance. In addition, they are also working on H.R. 8154 to prohibit the use of facial recognition technology on any image acquired by body-worn cameras of law enforcement officers and for other purposes. I will leave these bills with you. These were proposed in June of 21, so these are current. There have been multiple congressional hearings on this type of software and some of the problems that exist within it. I highly, highly recommend you vote no today. You go back, you watch those congressional hearings in order to get a fuller, bigger understanding of what this thing is before we do something that we can't take back.
Thank you. You want to give us to Sheila?